first thing on my agenda is I want to remind everyone to put all the details that you can on your tickets. So case numbers, if your issue is regarding a case, please let us know the case number, the form you're entering, what happens when you entered the form. If you get an error, put the error on in the ticket. If it's a supervision that you're having an issue with, give the supervision details, who you're supervising, the date that the supervision took place, what was being entered, and again, any error messages. For reports, make sure that you give us the report name, the dates that you're entering, if you're running it for your group, if you're running it for an individual. Please include screenshots and error codes and like any detail is not too small. Details really help us. And I know that it seems like it might take a lot of time up front, but it actually saves time because the more we know, the faster the issues can be resolved and the quicker you'll be on your way. The next thing I want to talk about are frog visits. So I think that there may be some confusion out there, and there's been so many changes, so understandable. Frog visits count towards your home visit rate. And also, we are now a one-step program, and so all home visitors are required to complete FSS and FRS core trainings prior to your first events. So just to be clear, a frog visit is a home visit, and it will count as a first event on training reports. Okay, are there any questions about that?
I have a similar question about frog visits.
Okay.
On the critical health and safety list, the 3 frequencies of time that are indicated is 1, 2, and 4 months of first content visit. I was looking to see if when we're using the phrase content visit, does that include or negate frog?
It should define that in the report documentation for that report.
Okay, I'll check that report then. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. So on to, I feel, what is going to be the meat of this meeting, the BPS training reports. Let me just preface by saying this is still work in progress. And we ask that you continue to bring your questions and your challenges and your discrepancies to our attention. We thoroughly tested these training reports. However, we do our training on a test site, and bottom line is test data and test case scenarios cannot capture the realities of live data. So that makes you guys our best testers. Never has this been more true than right now. So we ask for your patience, but we're also asking for your feedback. So I'm going to open the lines of communication right now, and I just want you to bring all your feedback right now.
I'll add before the feedback starts that we've been making a lot of changes to the training report in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So a lot of issues you may see resolved already. I think the biggest one, though, that might confuse some people is an issue that was brought up, which we solved. But how it works is this: if there's an annual training, we've now modified the report so that the annual training is not due until the end of the year, because HFA says as long as it's done in a calendar year. So therefore, you won't see your annual trainings on the training BPS report that are due at the end of the year because they're just not due yet. You will see them on the required topics report. So if you did have an annual training and you did it, it won't appear as done. It won't until January 1st, 2024, and then it'll show up. That's just an FYI.
have a question. I know that annually in the past, prior to the training updates, we were required to enter like 29 unique characteristics of the service population, and that code no longer exists in the training code list. What codes should we be using for that training moving forward?
Which training name was that again?
It was called like unique characteristics of the service population. I believe it was code 29, but don't quote me on that. And it was like an annual required training, but the training code no longer exists, but it still comes up on the required trainings report.
Correct.
So I didn't know if there was a training code that replaced that annual training.
Okay, so 29. That was, yep, unique characteristics. And so you won't see that because it was retired on 12/31/2021. So what replaced that? Can't type unique characteristics of a service population. Cultural competency. I believe since there are only two current annual trainings, I would imagine it's gonna be one of these two that would have been the one. And I think it's just code 356 annual diversity training 11.4C.
Okay.
That should be the one that replaced 29.
Okay. And then if we have staff coming up on the required training topic list as needing that unique characteristics of a service population training, is that something that is like a bug, or is it just because that diversity training record has not been entered?
You're going back to 29 again?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the weird thing is because it was retired at 12/31/2021, you're not going to see it if you try to add one, but because the report runs from 2018, it pulls that one in because it hasn't been retired yet.
Okay.
If it comes to getting accreditation, I would imagine anything that falls into that ungrouped area,
Okay.
your peer reviewers are going to ignore. They're ungrouped, they're not part of it. It's just that HFA section, the beginning, they should be caring about. I think the only people who care about ungrouped is probably maybe a
Us.
contract manager or you, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So Corey, we just bought half an hour. What do you want to do?
Well, actually, now I'm going to open it up. Anybody have any questions on anything, whether it be training reports or anything with the MAS?
Hi, yes, I have a question.
Hi,
I have a question about the FGP. So every family is required to have an active FGP, family goal plan. But when the family is closing and the workers indicate achieved, sometimes the families still come up on the list. Is that supposed to happen? We're seeing closed family on the FGP list.
Yeah, if I understand that correctly, what we've discussed before is because HFA has this weird rule that says all active families must have an active goal plan. And when you achieve it, we're recommending is you don't mark it as achieved, the last one, until the date of discharge. So that's what happens a lot, though, is they achieve it, and then you continue to have a discussion with them about, oh, what's the next couple of weeks look like? Do you want to continue? Do you want to move on? And then you start falling out of the report. So I would tell you that either you create a new one real quick saying that, I don't know, discussing future plans or something like that, or not mark it as achieved until the final date of discharge.
Okay.
It is an annoying little thing with HFA because it's like, if they're active, they must have a goal plan, even though they're about to graduate.
Okay.
Now, to chime in on that, I had a family that I closed, and on the last home visit, I clicked achieved, and it still did come up on the report. So I went back in and just said that it was still a working goal, and it took it off. But even on the last visit, kind of like in the last home visit, it asks for the next visit, and you don't have one because they're graduating. you kind of just plug something in. Is that what we should be doing?
It
Well,
was,
Go on.
it was probably because the case, because of the dates on the report, default to the last full month and a year of last full year, by month. So it was probably that the end date of the report wasn't after the discharge date yet. So the report was seeing, oh, this case hasn't been discharged as of the end date of the report. It's still active. So that's probably why that case was still showing up. But you shouldn't have to go back into a discharged case and re-enable a goal plan.
Okay, I'll play around with that.
So Tammy, if that continues to be an issue, please send us a ticket and we'll take a deep dive. Okay?
Okay.
Anyone else?
Hi, yes, I have a question when it comes to the engagement and the enrollment visit with the frog. In the cases where a family, they may have started a frog or some content of the frog was conducted in the same visit, the first visit where the consent forms were signed, but the frog was not completed until the second visit. Are we clicking the frog on both home visit logs or just on the log that we completed the home visit? The completed the frog.
It would be both, to my understanding. Every visit that was purely for the purpose of completing the frog should be marked as a frog visit.
With the intent that the frog was gonna happen. That's, we have to mark it on.
Yeah, so
Okay.
even if, like, say you set up a visit to try to get the frog done, but the family wasn't available, you would mark it as a frog visit and an attempted visit to say, oh, we went and we attempted to do the frog, but family wasn't there, we couldn't do it.
Okay, thank you.
I see a message in the chat from Erin. Is there now, or will there be a list given out to programs to know what the new code number and name is that replaces the old one? I will have to talk to Corrine about this. She's on vacation this week. I don't see why we can't put some kind of PDF together and put it into the documentation. But that would make sense.
Yeah,
So,
that was my understanding, Chris. I had actually asked Corrine about that and she said the expectation was that, yes, we would have a new trading code list. But we can wait till she gets back.
Hi, good morning, Corey. This is
Hi.
Marlene. Hi, Chris. Hi, MIS team. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Really, it's very helpful. We don't have to be calling you like crazy, right, Corey? I just want to put something out there. I know that it could be a yes, it could be a no. It's just an idea. We're transitioning all our records electronically. And I would like to know if it's any possibility under those case documents, if we can open maybe sub-files. For example, one for the level changes, one just only for all those consents. Because when you go there, it's pretty disorganized. And sometimes we get confused with one form and the other because it gets just to the, for example, if I put a consent and then I put a level change and then I put like a letter that I sent to the family, and this happened a couple of times, it's like I cannot find, I have to scroll all the way down or in the middle. But maybe if
Go ahead, Marlene. I'm sorry.
yes, maybe, I don't know, if we can open maybe little sub-files and put all the level change there, and level change and ASQ, and it could be like I guess a family record then, and everything is going to be centralized. So whenever we're doing supervision or whatever, we can go straight there and find.
Yeah.
You think that is possible? Not now.
Yeah.
I know you guys are busy, but
It's actually in process, Marlene. And Nora described what it is. It's essentially adding some filters that are similar to some other parts of the application so that you can filter by just your level forms or just your ASQ forms or whatever you want to do. We are that feature just started getting written. It is a little bit of a lower priority, and we just lost one of our programmers, so he was working on that, but it is on our list. and it will certainly be done. And the only other advice I can give you is to just use the sorting and filtering capabilities of the document list to do that. And I realize it does get a little long, the list, and it's hard to find things. But as long as you're consistent in your naming convention for the files and you use sorting in the search box there, that should help you as well. But in a couple months, you'll have categories, and that should make it much more organized for you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I see another question from Aaron about automatically updating some of the MAIS codes if the training was put in under an older one. We've done that twice now with some of the codes. I'm just double checking to see if I can find out which ones they were. But I guess send in a ticket if you have a lot of people who have an older training that has now been switched to the new code that you put in, because there's that time lag before the new code got in. But I think we've mostly done those, so I'm just curious which one you're talking about.
Tatiana, your hand is raised, I see.
Yes, thank you, Corey. I do have a question about the ASQ documentation. We've been trying to change our practice to match more policy instead of doing all the ASQs, because that's what the staff was doing. All the ASQs as viewed in MIS, doing twice a year for the first 3 years as is in the policy. But with that said, what was brought up to my attention is that if we start an ASQ at 4 months instead of 2 months, when you go to MIS to document, then it shows, and again, I don't do that documentation, so that's why I'm telling you this. So what it shows is that the 2 month wasn't done, so they cannot really enter the 4 month because they didn't do the 2 month. So that was one of the concerns that was brought up to me. I advise my team, if they do have come across that problem now, to reach out to you guys to let you know when that happens. And
Yeah,
the other,
if they, oh, sorry, Tatiana, go ahead.
No, the other thing too, which is very confusing, and I have to talk to them about that, is on the tickler report. It does shows that they are due. And they're due for, like, if we are not doing the 2 months, I guess, which we are not, unless we have a reason for it, then it's showing that they're due for it. For the newest staff, that's kind of very, they get so anxious because they use that particular report as their Bible in a way, what to do with the program to follow up with. I just want to let you guys know, and, you know, most of my staff are new, so that's very scary for them. It's a scary territory to match ASQ practice with the policy right now, just because of what they view in MIS.
Yeah.
But I'm reinforcing that we'll be okay.
Yeah, to address the first thing, they should be able to enter any ASQ interval, even if you bypassed one, like say you didn't do the 2, you should be able to do the 4 or the 6 without issue in the system. So yeah, if you reinforce that they should put in a ticket when that happens, that would be great. We'll try to figure out what is going on. For the tickler part of it, I see what they're saying, and it is the policy now that it's 2 per year. The ticklers don't usually know, like the family timeline, for example, doesn't know what things are completed and when they're slotted in. So it shows all of the intervals for the ASQ and the ASQ-SC.
Could that interval be changed though to 6 months as opposed to every, 2, 4? So if it was changed from, to 6 months, then if it was completed, if something is due for the first 6 months, and then if something is due on the second 6 months, you know what I mean, of that year? Because if it's twice a year.
Right, it is twice a year. However, it also has to be within Brooks Brothers intervals for the ASQ. So for the first year, there's a ton of intervals. There's 2, 4, 6. I think there's 8, 10, and 12 too. But as you start hitting the later years, the intervals start getting dispersed farther and farther, and they only, I believe, have a 1 month window around them. So for example, the 24-month ASQ, I think must be completed between 23 and 25 months in order to fall within Brooks Brothers' window of having a validated tool. So having specific intervals on like the family timeline and the ticklers makes sure that you have a prompt that, oh, this ASQ is coming up. Do I need to do it? If so, I need to get it done within this window, because if it's done outside the window, it won't count towards any of the reports. It won't count towards that 2 per year.
But even the recommendation in MIS, the numbers that are there, it's not really the recommendation that's on the policy. It's not the same months. Recommendation in overall uses that they should be at least 4 months apart.
Correct, but that's a recommendation. The requirement is only 2 per year. It's not
No,
necessarily.
No, I know, but I mean like 2 per year, but they can be done at 4 and then 6. Do you know what I mean? This is what I mean. It needs to be an interval in between them. That's the the recommendation that way. So yes, there will be 2 per year, but then you have a 4 and a 6. So you want to kind of give that's what the education on ASQ provides.
Tatiana, we the MIS programmed per the instructions and recommendations from OCFS, and so that's why it's programmed that way. And I feel like this might be, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but this may be a conversation maybe at regionals where you can discuss it and maybe everybody feels the same way, but we can't change the MIS without all of those discussions happening.
No, sounds good. I just want to let you guys know
Okay,
what's there and what it's causing to the team. I just want to make you aware of it.
Oh,
Great.
thank you. Anybody else have any questions about any part of the MIS?
I have a question. In the new ASR guidelines, particularly in that first section relating to our service population or target population, it's asking us to report SOGI data. So things related to like sexual orientation, gender identity. Is there a plan at any point to try to include collecting that information in MIS? Or are we supposed to just look for county-specific resources?
For PCs or TCs?
For PC ones.
PC ones. Let me check.
We
the
obviously
PC
collect gender already, but I didn't know if there was a plan to expand on that because I saw that and I was like, oh, I'd have to do some digging. I don't even know where I'd find that data for my county.
Yeah, as far as I know, we haven't heard any requirement from OCFS or anyone to expand on the gender option or any additional options for the PC information. That's as far as I know, though.
Okay.
Is anybody here from OCFS that can address that?
I'm here from OCFS, but I think this would be something that obviously we'd have to, I wasn't developer of that ASR template, and maybe something that we can reach out for that committee to get a little bit more guidance on. That makes sense. Is that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
okay.
I know there's like room for error and obviously each year we'll improve on it, but it just like popped into my brain like, oh, do we collect that? Is there any formal way we collect that? Could we collect that? Because I'm having a harder time finding that data for my county, but.
Right. Yeah, all the things that we got to consider, right? And then how do we deal with that? How do we collect it? How do we get you the information that you need? And then report on that, more importantly, right? To show that we're doing that. So that is something we can definitely, Nora, we can definitely explore, have the conversation and see if we can come up with that resolution so you guys can have the information, right, that you need then for that piece. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Of course.
So Nora, in the chat, it looks like everybody wants your ASQ tracker. So if you want to, you can send it to me and actually post it on the blog for everybody to be able to access it, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. I actually got it from Caitlin in Ulster, so I have to give her a shout out. It was from her, but it was incredibly helpful for our staff, particularly our new staff. So I will send it to you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, so if everybody's okay with this, I'm going to end the meeting now. And as I said, I'm going to do some editing to the video and it will be posted on the blog. And thank you everybody for coming. And again, thank you for your patience and bring all your feedback to us, please.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.